to, because my God, man. Hey, do me a favor.
Yep.
Hit that light switch over there.
We are live, folks.
This is a Listen to This Bull Show, the show where we talk about a bunch of bullshit in the insurance industry. And this is Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, I'm also Matt. Stand up, Matt. Matt's too tall for my camera. We don't really need to see all of his hair.
I look
so
bald
I think it's okay.
I mean, yeah.
I'm used to standing next to Remington, which I talk down to.
Hey, Matt, just because you have a big beard and all doesn't mean you can just start throwing grenades, okay?
It's not the only thing that's big guy.
I knew this was already going to get off topic really quick. I called it about 10 minutes
It
ago.
didn't take long.
No,
Yeah, it didn't take long at all.
All right, let me play the intro, and then we'll get on with it. My computer's so slow right now. Here we go.
Look at
It's not gonna work.
TJ got me cracked up right when it was going off to the intro and disclaimer there.
Are you seeing everything on your end smoothly, Remington?
It's very it's good. It's good enough. It's a little dicey, but it's good.
And John's asking you where the hell you've been. Oh my God, there's another person in here.
Who is? He's a lifeguard.
This is TJ Ware.
That's
Matt
good.
Danskin, Restoration Referral Network, also the president of the Catalyst Group. TJ Ware, owner of Paradise Claims. I don't know your role in NTS. Was CEO,
founder,
and also a member of the Catalyst Group. Matt Mulholland, instructor. That's it. And and then Remington Huggins over there, actual attorney.
Esquire.
Mr. Esquire.
That's why he gets off the screen.
Matt, I think you're selling yourself short, man. You are a dean, so I just want to bring that to everybody's attention here.
Somebody called me a dean once, so it stuck.
There you
Are you
go.
also the librarian, though?
Oh my God, this is terrible. What am I drinking? Oyster City Hooter Brown. Hooter Brown. I should have known.
That sounds
By the name of it. You want to try it?
Yeah, I'm gonna try it.
You like trying stuff after someone says it's horrible?
You got to give it a shot.
I like it.
horrible. How?
You do?
I do. It's a little chocolatey.
There you go. You like it chocolate.
What are we talking about today, guys? What's going on?
I like it dark.
This is
sometimes.
going to be a rough show. All right. So the topic for today is the benefits of role playing. And my wife is making comments already, so I'm sure that she's really going to enjoy that topic.
Yeah.
Also wear the hat covered in slug slime. Yeah, I did. I caught a sea slug in my hat over the weekend while we were out on the boat. There was a sea slug just swimming.
I've
You ever
caught
seen
one
a sea
before.
slug?
Yeah.
I mean, they're easy to
In
catch.
Cancun.
They barely
Yeah,
move.
Yeah.
But it's
They're really
he inked.
wiggly.
I was holding it, and then I put it into a bucket, and then the bucket turned purple. So it was like right at the last second that I got it out of my hat into the bucket. I didn't know they inked.
I don't guess.
Yeah, I
I
don't
did.
think the one we messed with inked. It was like
Unless
it was
the
pretty
bucket had
slimy,
something in it already.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird, but it turned purple. The water turned purple. So I assumed it was an ink situation. What is that?
She is so rude.
Oh my God. All right. I don't know why our computer is so janky right now. I really apologize for that. So why don't we actually try to describe what we mean by the benefits of role playing? Are we talking about something naughty?
No, I would like for somebody else other than Matt to describe what we're talking about. So, and how about this, Danskin? Since there's two Matts over there,
That's
you go ahead.
Yeah.
You tell us what we're talking about here today.
Okay.
No, wait a second.
Wait, you're saying not me?
No, he said definitely you.
Definitely you,
Not Mulholland. Okay.
not Mulholland.
I've got to get back to the beach. So it was nice to see all of you guys.
You look like you belong at the beach.
Thank you. We'll start our role playing tomorrow. It was wonderful to see both of you. Bye, Remington.
TJ, have a good one, buddy. Take care. Have fun.
Oh, I hope our internet fixes itself. I don't even think it's the internet that's the issue. I think that there's just some kind of Microsoft thing going on in the background of my computer right now. So I apologize if there is some issues there.
You got 42 games of solitaire up there.
Well, I have to win at least one of them, right? It's the only way.
It's lagging the computer out. All right. We're looking a little bit jumpy, but I think most of the viewership is probably not here for our looks.
Right.
So let's talk about role playing in the business sense, in the professional development sense, Remington. We're actually getting ready to do, we've got a 3-day boot camp that we're doing here in Florida at National Claims Institute. I'm really excited about. That is going to involve a lot of role playing. It's going to involve, and I'll get these headphones on. It's going to involve a lot of practicing what is actually going to happen in the real world. And we actually do some of that stuff in the real world. And this isn't so much a pitch for that, because if you're not already signed up, you're not going to be there tomorrow morning. It's too late.
Sucks for you.
Yeah, it really does. So we did this back in January, and those guys, every single one of them is killing it. So I'm excited about what we're about to do here again.
I got to tell you, whenever we've done role playing at my company, we have had most of the people be really, really nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point where it's almost uncomfortable to force them into that situation, like sweat pouring off their faces and shit. What is it about role playing that makes people so scared?
So I think it's a lot of people are just uncomfortable with the spotlight on them. They're uncomfortable going through that situation in a manufactured way.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually had, when we did our thing in January, I had some guys tell me after the fact, one of them called his wife and was like, "Hey, hon, I need to go home. I can't be here. I can't do this." And she was like, "No, the internet can't." Yeah.
My God, why is this pink? They're so pink.
These are going to be great on the beach.
These are nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody gets one.
You got some for all my guys?
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
That'll be fun.
So, so that one guy wanted to go home, wanted to, he was calling his wife, "Hey, hon, I need to go home. I can't stay at this thing."
Did you tackle him and force him into it?
No. His wife was like, "Buck up. You're not coming home. You need to do this." And he did it. And he was like on the edge of throwing up when we did it. But by the end of it, he was like, "I'm so thankful that you did that." Wow. And he's like killing it now. But we made him do it, and we do it we up the ante. So it's not just like, hey, some other people are going to watch you have this fake conversation, but we're going to put you in front of a group of people. I'm going to put lights on you. There's going to be a microphone. There's going to be 3 camera angles on you. You better do this perfect. And we're going to discuss what you did wrong afterward.
So you go through all that and you say, you better do it perfect.
Oh, I don't actually say that.
But they're terrified. Their knees are shaking together. And
yeah.
Remington, when you were going through, I want to say attorney training, but that sounds like it's probably the wrong
I think
term.
it's called law school.
Law school. When you're going through law school, did they make you do any role playing?
No, it's very similar to Hague. It's a 2-day course that we do, and you get a certification, and you just roll from there. You can just start going up in the courtroom. So man, that's what we did. I can tell you this: what you do in law school is completely different than what you practice. I can say that on the litigation side. Now, if you're like a real estate attorney or like a paper pusher and just reviewing documents, yeah, that's one thing. But actually litigating in the real world, completely different than what they teach you in law school. Every attorney that's a litigator will tell you the same exact thing. They just want you to get ready for the bar and pass it. And then you get pushed out into the real world and you actually have to interact with people and so forth. So a lot of attorneys are not ready for that at all. We do like mock mediations and stuff, but it's nothing compared to the real world. So yeah.
There we go. I'm going to keep the audio the way it was. You said that there was no echo issue earlier, and I think this actually helped speed things up a little bit.
Yep, I don't hear any echo.
Fantastic. All right. So if you're doing all that in law school, or a lack of, maybe they should start doing role playing in law school. You could be the criminal, and the instructor could be the attorney, and they could show you up pretty good.
There you go. I will say this. There is such thing as mock trial.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you compete. I was on the mock trial team. That is the closest to real life experience that we get in law school. The rest is just literally your nose is in a book, a lot of the times. So
how'd you do on the mock trial team? Were you like the captain?
I loved it. Yep. It was great times for sure. I made the honor board on the mock trial team.
I was going to ask you if you were like on a bench player or something like that.
No bench playing. No one's got time for that, man.
Ain't no one got time for that. All right, cool.
So we had, I had one of my clients that we were going through and we're like, hey, let's do some role playing. Let's role play this phone call, this conversation. And they're like, oh no, I don't need to do role playing. Like, I'm good. Like, I can study it and then I'll just go do it. And I asked them about their goals. I was like, what are your goals? And they're like, I want to sell $2 million in roofing this year. I was like, all right, cool. Very reasonable goal. You can do that. And what will that mean for you? All that'll mean I'll make for them is about $250,000 if they sell $2 million in roofing. And I was like, all right, cool. You're going to make $250,000. And what do you want to do next year? Well, I want to do like twice that. All right, cool. You want to make $500,000 next year. And I was like, the actors that you watch on TV that make millions and millions of dollars, do you think they practice? Or do you think the first time that they say those lines on the script is when they're out there in front of the camera? I'm like, well, no, of course they practice.
Well, you ever seen that show, Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah.
They don't practice.
No, that's improv.
All right.
Right.
They totally make millions, though, right?
No.
Probably not per episode.
No. Yeah, they probably make they make like chump change.
Yeah, 60,000
compared to like real actors. I mean, like it's cool. It's a talent. It's a skill. It's a whatever. But
well, if
that's
they
not where
happen
the
to
money
be watching
is.
this show, we do actually believe that you're real actors. We promise. It's fine. It's fine. All right, keep going.
I think of the 10 people that are watching, there's probably very few professional actors in the crowd.
True.
That's only on Facebook now, Matt.
Oh,
We got all these other, StreamYard doesn't give us the benefit of the doubt here. But
this is
I can say this. Before we go in front of the court, any type of hearing, we do full-blown, we act it out multiple times, many times before we actually go in front of the court. And also, if you think about it, we do that for depositions too with our clients, with our experts. We go through and act out the deposition itself, for preparation. And that's just what it is. It's prep. And we just act all those out. But yeah, it is a big part of our business once you actually start litigating.
Mm-hmm.
Drew Carey is about to sue the
He's about to sue the shit out of him.
well, I'm going to retain the services of Remington and Huggins to protect us.
I don't think he represents idiots for saying stupid shit.
We're
I'm not calling you an idiot.
we're out of luck.
I'm making a statement that is coincidentally.
So Remington doesn't represent idiots, is what you're saying.
Right. That's why he's never represented me. So back on topic. And if you're watching this episode right now and you have questions that don't have anything to do with role playing, Hopefully. Honestly, that was like a beginner topic to start things off
Yeah.
smoothly.
Yeah.
It's like foreplay for topics.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, right. So as far as topics go, it was kind of a foreplay kind of a thing. But I think that it's important, and I think that it's a very uncomfortable thing. But so is actually performing those tasks without being outside the classroom. So if you're going to have to do something uncomfortable when the buck hits the road, what is that saying?
Rubber
When
hits the road.
Rubber hits the road.
Yeah.
When the rubber hits the road and you're going to have to be uncomfortable then you should practice being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's why my chairs have no padding.
All right.
That's great, Matt. I appreciate that. Hey, Danskin, do you have any tips for individuals when because everybody gets it, it's human nature. You just get nervous when you're about to go into certain situations that make somebody uncomfortable. Do you have any tips for them other than, acting it out beforehand and so forth and getting the marbles out of your mouth, so to speak?
Yeah. Obviously being prepared, knowing what you're doing. This is something that I used years and years ago. There was a movie, it was a stupid movie with Hugh Grant when this little kid.
You are attacking actors like crazy.
Yeah. Hugh Grant would probably say it was a stupid movie, but he's like mentoring this little bitty kid, who's like wants to talk to a girl for the first time or whatever, and he's like, "You don't have to be brave all the time. You need to be brave for like 10 seconds."
Oh yeah, 10 seconds of bravery, and then you can stop.
Yeah, and that I've used that personally, and I know a lot of people that have, like, where it's like, all right, like, even though I don't feel good about this, I'm just gonna I need to be brave for like 10 seconds, and then by that time, like, I'm in it and like I'm doing it and I'm seeing that it's okay, and like,
right,
it's a mental hack to like get yourself to start doing that thing that you're afraid to do.
Right. Yeah. When I knocked on doors as a roofer, I did that. I was a roofer that knocked on doors once. When I did that, I fucking hated it because it sucks. I don't have to even elaborate. Everyone knows how much it sucks to suddenly be talking to a complete stranger about something that doesn't even want to open the door for you. So I would just suck it up because, I had a family and I had to support them, and you would do what you had to do. But once you started talking, then it was fine. Does that happen the same way in the courses during the role playing? Do people, once they start doing it, do they get more comfortable inside the class as well?
Yeah, typically once like they've done their first call, like they've seen a lot of other people doing their first call or whatever, then it's not a big deal. And they're laughing, when somebody makes a mistake, it's not such a big deal. Like, it's usually that first start that people have an issue.
That makes sense. So once you start talking, what if the best icebreaker in the world is actually just farting? Because then you should be like, "Oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing." What if you knocked on a door and that's what you started with? Because everyone's going to laugh because farts are funny. They're funny. They're the most hilarious thing in the world. Don't look at me like that. There's nothing funnier than farts. I
think if somebody knocks on my door and they're like, "Sorry, I just farted," I'm like, boom.
I think I would die laughing and want to know what else is about to come out of this man's mouth.
All right. I mean, go try it. Sure.
I have zero things to say right now. I'm good.
There's somebody for everything.
Right.
All right. Well, Matt, here's my tip is if I have to go into a really, I guess, stressful or nervous situation, is I go back to a time in which it was my most extreme stressful situation and it all worked out. And I just say, if I can do that, I can do this. And that works for me. And I go in those situations and do it.
Do you really want to hear his most extreme stressful moment? I really want to know what Remington's most extreme stressful moment is.
Yeah, what is that moment that you hearken back to?
Well, I think there's a couple, but one was where I need to be careful of how I say this, but I truly do.
It's such a lawyer thing.
I
to
need
say.
popcorn.
Be careful how I talk.
I walked into a room expecting a one-on-one meeting with somebody very high up in the state government, and ended up being about 7 people versus me and the head honchos of every big carrier in the entire state of Georgia had to sit down, and it was me versus them. That was probably, I guess, I don't know if stressful is the word for it. Maybe it is, but just like, okay, we're doing this, and just got to suck it up and go for it. And there was zero stumbling, zero hesitation. It's like, hey, if I can do that, like getting caught off guard, ambushed, maybe, I can do a lot of things. So that's one thing I kind of think about sometimes.
That's yeah, I would have been stressed out in that situation. But there was a few people that were willing to take your place on that one. There was one guy in particular that thought he could do a better job than you.
Yeah. I heard somebody who came in like 24 hours before the. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
of course. But no, I think he took that head course and was ready to go. I think he was ready to go and battle and take it from there. But
that 2-day, are you guys thinking about NCI adding an attorney's course, like a 2-day?
So we have one.
Okay.
We have one called Public Adjusting for Attorneys, but we've got 10 or so different courses planned out for attorneys that Remington is putting together. Most of them are going to be online.
Yep.
Because Remington doesn't have time to teach them all the time.
Yeah.
But that's the benefit there. So there's a lot of times when you get an attorney that comes from personal injury or something along those lines, and they think that insurance cases are the same as any other tort law kind of a deal. Not so.
Yeah. No.
Does not appear to be the case.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I would say vice versa. If somebody has a personal injury case, they're trying to give it to me, I wouldn't touch it with a 30-foot pole. Right.
Because then you'd injure them and they'd sue you, because they're likely to sue if they already have a suit on that kind of thing, right?
Stay in your lane.
Yeah. I don't have time to learn a different area of law. I mean, seriously, no attorney truly does. If they do, then they're not a busy attorney. So
imagine if you're an attorney and you're taking on a case where somebody is suing another attorney, and then your client turned around and sued you.
That seems likely.
It'd be one of those things like, I should have seen this coming.
Matt, and this goes to Mulholland. What's the most stressful situation you've been put in, and how did you deal with it?
You always think about recent things when someone asks you that, which is, I say always. We've had 2 examples, and yours was rather recent. My family was moving from Georgia to Florida at the end of March. But we didn't know for sure that they were going to be coming up at the end of March until 3 days before they had to be there. And we didn't have a house. So I had 3 days to find a house. And then on top of that, an instructor for a class that we were doing, I'm not going to get into big specifics, but they weren't able to teach that class. And I had to recreate that class from scratch and then teach that class. Not that I didn't have any expertise in it, but creating a course out of nothing takes time. I had to do that and find a house, and I wasn't able to go home and help my wife pack everything up to move. So we didn't have a house for 3 days, which is great for my kids. If they become motivational speakers or something in the future, they'd be able to say, honestly,
I was homeless.
As a kid, I was homeless. And I come, because motivational speakers also, they always want to tell you, how bad they had it in the beginning of their life and how they overcame that. That's how I view motivational speakers generally, right? It's pretty much what they say. So I did all of that and didn't sleep for like 5 days. I think there was sleep deprivation involved in creating the test for the course that I did.
You didn't sleep for 5 days?
Well, I got some sleep, but generally speaking, if you make a 5-day course, minimum, it takes a full day to write a full day's worth of stuff.
Sure.
And then if you're going to go back and tweak anything. So I had 5 days worth of course creation ahead of me minimum.
Jeez.
And I had 3 days to do that and also teach the course. So I did it. I got it done because you do what you got to do.
It's impressive.
But that sucked ass. And my wife wasn't too happy about it.
No, hey man, that is great. That is a ton of moving parts at one time and huge, significant moving parts. So hats off to you, bud, getting that done. We got a question here. What's going on?
Why is our industry not talking about NCI enough? There are so many bad players in this industry that need to be weeded out.
Are those connected statements there?
Yeah,
that was the first thing that went through my head. I understand what Anthony's trying to say, but I had the same thought.
I'm pretty sure he is not describing NCI as one of the bad players.
Oh, no, definitely not.
Right.
But I think it's two separate thoughts there.
Right.
But why is our industry not talking about NCI enough? And I think, that's.
I can tell you why.
Why?
We suck at marketing.
You're getting better.
Yeah, it's time issues. So it's a startup, just like anything else. With a startup, you don't generally have a lot of money in the beginning. So a lot of stuff is put on very few people. And those people are doing so many different things and wearing so many different hats. We're getting there. And now we've got a marketing team that's putting a bunch of infrastructure together. I think that people will recognize what it is that we're doing soon enough. But yeah, no, the problem is that there are too many bad players and bad educators in the industry that are teaching shit that is just wrong, false information, and making the industry as a whole go down the wrong path. There's a lot of that. Significantly unfortunate amount of it. And it can be rectified. Anthony's asking if he can help. This is how Anthony markets. He waits until you do a podcast, and then he solicits you during the podcast.
There you go, Anthony. Spread the word, man. Spread the good word about NCI and those guys down there in New Smyrna.
Right.
I'm with Matt. I sit through attorneys' presentations sometimes, and I'm just shaking my head like that's not accurate, but yeah. Seriously, it's people do like to talk, and some just kind of talk out of their other side, but NCI is some good stuff. I know every single student I've talked to that went down there praises it and says, hey, look, it was well worth the bang for the buck.
Yeah. I don't tend to like to talk about myself or the shit that we're doing to try to market it too, which is probably a problem for marketing people in general. So when people talk about, how great something is, I don't tend to like to toot my own horn. And that's not good for someone that's trying to sell something.
That's why there's some major, should I use the term D-bags, that are pretty well
because they're
marketed
completely okay with it.
Yeah, they're like, I feel very comfortable. Like we put up those banners that have a picture of me, even like for our own event. And I felt like such a tool.
Did you see that banner
which my marketing guy put it together. I had no part in this.
Yeah.
Other than putting it up, which just feels weird. But I think it's like politicians. Like most politicians are jerks and they seek power because they're jerks. And so and so they win or whatever. But like, I think there's a lot of people that like, they're okay with just being like all about themselves. And then,
well, they say you got to believe in yourself, right?
You do, but like, there's a line.
I think certain politicians believe too much in themselves.
This is true.
There's far too much belief going on. Are one of you guys going to put on a dress and role play or what? Yeah. Thanks, John. This is neck tattoo.
It's not going to be me. Neck tattoo.
Yeah.
I met him at Win the Storm.
Did you?
Yeah, I put him on a panel at for the Catalyst Group, and I think I totally screwed up because he was not the type of person I was supposed to put on the panel.
Wow. Because he had a tattoo
no, it was
on his
like
neck?
no, that has nothing to do with it. I think it was
because
like
he's an actor?
for like company owners or something, and he wasn't, or I don't even know at this point.
He's a company owner.
Oh well.
I can say this. John Fielding is, man, he's a smart dude. He really is. If you're a contractor out there and you need some questions answered when it comes to contracting and roofing, give him a shout. He knows what's up.
So Nate Ellis has a funny comment there. Danskin is wearing a dress right now. So because he posted that, I'm going to tell a funny story about Nate Ellis. So
that's what we're here for.
I was 13 years old and 100 pounds, and our friend Christian Summers decided to pick me up and buy my boxers and give me a wedgie and hang me on the coat hook at our church.
He was able to do that?
Yeah, I was 100 pounds. I was a little tiny
Wow.
pipsqueak. Yeah, I was the smallest person in my whole school. And now I don't fit on your screen.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And Nate decides to come over and join the fun. And Nate is like, oh, yeah, let's put him on the coat hook or whatever. And Nate comes over within striking distance of me. And I give him one of these right to the chest. And he drops to the ground wheezing, trying to catch breath. Oh, yeah, exactly. You remember that, Nate? I hope you remember that. That was when I was 100 pounds. I'm 250 now.
Like, were you swinging afterwards? Like you hit it and you're like hanging from your underwear?
No, they didn't quite get me there. He was coming over to help put me on the coat rack, and I was doing everything in my power to not let that happen.
Think heavy.
And yeah, I was successful. So
and ever since that moment, you and Nate were best friends.
Me and Nate go back 25 years.
Did you punch the other guy that started it?
I didn't. No, I got down and I think I bolted. I was
right.
Yeah, I was.
Well,
I mentioned the part about being 100 pounds and people picking me up by my underwear.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, see that shows you. That's a confirmation of the story. He doesn't. Nate was not as nice of a guy as he is now. 25 years ago.
Got it.
My brother was not a nice brother. And then when we got older, he suddenly became like extra nice.
Like to make up for being a jerk?
Maybe, but it's uncomfortable now because it's like you're a different person. What the fuck? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People mature, man. All right.
Yeah. I did it.
People are young. Guys are young and trying to prove something. And, you know.
I don't think you have to mature.
That's all. Matt, I'm sure you were an angry person when you were younger. Not as angry as you are now, but you were angry.
He's talking to you. I was not. I was happy to go.
I was talking to you, Mulholland.
Except for getting a wedgie.
I don't know if I'm an angry person. Maybe I am.
Maybe
I am.
Only when you take the hat off.
Underwear.
That's why we talk. You know what we haven't talked about this entire episode?
Actual like
bullshit.
Oh.
Let's talk about it. Let's go.
Bullshit. So
now I'm ready.
Is there any bullshit we can talk about that's on topic? I don't think there is. Does anybody have any questions? Some bullshit they've dealt with in the last week that they would love to share and have some insight on? We've got Uber contractor, Uber public adjuster, and Uber attorney all on one show.
Hey, Danskin, are you hearing anything from your clients or any of the contractors on the front line that they're complaining about or seeing from the carrier in like the last month or two?
Nothing new.
Got it.
New to our listeners. What
Same old stuff. I mean, so one thing like what TJ was talking about when he was in here earlier is these carriers giving pushback on an NTS report.
Yeah.
There you go. As opposed to an ITEL. I think that's something because I think, which is probably not all of them. It's probably just a portion of them that are pushing back on it. Because it's a pretty cut and dry thing. Like you can match it up and identify like this is the thing and is it available? Is it not?
Right.
They just, so I think that's kind of a new wave that's happening right now. I
think it's funny how they deny it sometimes. I've had a few people that I'm consulting with that are telling me, the adjusters that say that they don't accept that they'll only accept ITEL, will then not also go and get an ITEL. They'll refuse to get an ITEL. They'll just say, no, we don't need it. We're not going to accept this. We only use ITEL, but we're not going to get one. What the fuck? I mean, if you're going to go that far and you're going to say that kind of thing, if you're going to say you're not going to accept something, then you have to rebut with an alternative, a better offer, a better option. If you're not going to do that, then what's the point? So what you're basically saying is you're not going to allow the policyholder to prove their loss in their manner without rebutting it. So that's not cool. If you're not going to accept the NTS, then you're going to have to give an ITEL in return, or whatever service you have. State Farm has their own internal. If you're not going to do that, then you're just saying no without a basis for saying no. Does it matter, Remington, who the expert is that's brought in on either side?
I mean, yeah, to me it does.
Did you hear about in the Johnny Depp case, they brought in the wrong expert?
Are you serious?
Yeah. Did you hear about this, Remington?
No.
They got this guy that is like a psychologist or something named like Peter Siegel, that they like went to another attorney. Hey, do you have an expert for this? Yeah, Peter Siegel. He's a psychologist. Bring him in. And they got the wrong Peter Siegel. And he was the one who was like methed out. Like,
that was a weird guy.
Yeah, that dude.
That guy.
And like the right Peter Siegel is like a really good speaker and also like this like really like well-known psychologist or whatever. Like, so they're both in psychology. They both have the same name or whatever, but like they brought in the wrong guy. Like,
oh, that's funny.
yeah. So
That's too good. Too good. I mean, think about it. Do you want a, we're on first party, we're talking about roofing and stuff. So let's just use engineers. You want an engineer that's lost 6 Daubert motions and has been declared not an expert versus somebody who's been successful?
How do you know if they've lost Daubert evaluations? Is there a way to look that up?
No, I mean, yeah, there is some ways to. If you get on Pacer, if you're in federal court and you look up their names, if they're ever been named in a case, then you can find them. That's just one way. But you simply ask them because they're going to have to tell you the truth. If they don't, then it's going to come out in deposition, because one of the questions that every single attorney asks to any expert is, have you ever, been excused as an expert through a Daubert motion? So that is always asked, credibility. Out of 100 cases, I work 100% with the carrier. Well, I'd rather have somebody that's, even 30%, 70% than 100%. Those are just variables that come into play that weigh out, how good an expert actually is on our side of things. I mean, they have to.
I am writing that down.
Yeah, do it. If you forget about it, call me and ask me.
The show to take a note. Then the audience members should do the same. All right, we got an actual bullshit thing on the screen. Nate, the guy that got punched by Matt as a child, says,
Nate was also young.
He was. Oh, was he?
Yeah, he's like 3 years older.
He wasn't an
so
adult
he was.
at the time.
I was like 13. He was like 16.
And you still knocked his wind out as a pipsqueak.
It was flight or flight. Yeah.
Man, you're strong. Talk about uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
So Nate says, yeah, I have an adjuster that approved all supplements I requested a month ago. Today, a new adjuster took over and sent me another revised estimate with no supplements approved.
So I would ask the question, and I know this is more your lane than mine. Approved how? Verbally, written, like a revised estimate? Like, I think that's pretty critical, right?
I mean, if it's in writing, then it's definitely affirmed coverage. If it isn't in writing, but they tell you over the phone as if they have some implied authority to make that decision, then I don't know. Remington, is that an estoppel situation, or is it not quite estoppel unless it's in writing?
It's okay. So there's a huge element to estoppel that people forget about, and that is that the homeowner actually relied upon that statement, and to their detriment was injured.
I knew that.
You knew it.
Yeah.
So without detrimental reliance, then it's not an estoppel.
That is correct. So for instance, here's a prime example. Carrier gives an estimate to a homeowner and says your entire roof is paid. They go out and they hire a contractor, they incur that cost. A week later, that adjuster is fired and it's a new one. And he says, no, it's a denied roof. That's estoppel versus somebody getting an estimate saying you get a full roof replacement and then they haven't taken any steps to be damaged. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. So if he had that in writing from the adjuster, is that affirmed coverages that they are now withdrawing?
Man, we actually see these more than you would think. We probably get one of these once every 4 to 6 months. And what it is it's typically an IA that goes out to the property, writes the whole scope, gives it to the adjuster, and they accidentally send the IA's estimate versus their own. I mean, seriously, that's like typically what happens. And then they try to retract it. Every single one of those have certainly settled at a good price. But, I don't know if it necessarily fits. They have to have that one element, for it to fit the promissory estoppel.
Well, for a promissory estoppel, I get it. If they are affirming and withdrawing coverages, does that fall under other insurance laws?
I mean, you could look at the Unfair Claim Settlement Practice Act, and I'm sure you could cherry pick, 1 through, 15 on there, a couple of those when it comes to it. But, bad faith, I mean, I don't throw around the term much, but, you find out where that estimate came from. It's obviously somebody who viewed the property, inspected it, and decided that it warranted a full roof replacement. However, the desk adjuster is not wanting to pay it out. I think that's on the fence of, being there in that bad faith area.
I can tell you, I've had claims where the adjuster has gone out and written an estimate that was underpaid, and we've sent in supplemental estimates with a lot of evidence and everything that go along with it. And then we get a new adjuster assigned that meets us back out on property, and they write a new estimate and they add in a lot of our supplements, but then they also reduce some of the stuff that was previously provided for and even paid out ACV amounts on. But the overall estimate increased a small amount. But if you were to take the items that they took off, left those alone, and just added in the stuff that they added on, it would have been a much larger increase. So in a real sense, especially in Georgia, where items as an idea, scope as an idea is almost its own individual coverages. You can't appraise scope. It's like each scope item is almost its own coverage in the way that Georgia works because of some badass case law. Bad case law. Badass makes it sound awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Right. We all knew what you meant, Matt. We all knew what you meant.
I hope so. So them removing individual items off of that estimate, even though the estimate overall increased, so it's not like they took money back or charged the homeowner back any money. But if you looked at it from a item by item basis, if you had coverage on one personal property item A, it's a couch, and then a refrigerator, personal property item B. And they said, all right, we've paid you the ACV on both of these. We're actually going to charge you back on the couch $300, but we're going to increase the value of the fridge $400. So here's a $100 check. If you look at it like that, did they actually charge you back for the couch? They did, even though overall they didn't. I think that individual items should have their own. I don't want to say that they're their own coverage because it's all tied under coverage C in this case for personal property, for my example, but you could individualize payment for individual items.
You using contents as your example, I think is perfect. You need to use contents as that example. It makes sense.
It works.
Yeah.
So, because until you claim one of the contents is being damaged, they're not going to pay you for other contents. And replacing a content doesn't have a lot to do with repairability or anything along those lines. You're replacing one whole thing. It's like replacing a roof and replacing siding as two separate items. But if you're going to reduce one of those in a real sense, you're being charged back any money that they've already paid you out. So I think that there's an issue there. We didn't take that one to litigation or anything. We ended up settling on that after we made quite a bit of argument along those lines, but it's mostly because I really didn't want Remington to get his hands on it.
John, here you go. By the way, he's lying, guys, everybody out there, ladies, gentlemen. If the industry as a whole stops the insurance proceeds model and the free roof BS goes away, the salesperson will have to work for the job. Are you, Matthew Danskins, able? He did put 2 T's there too. Matthew Danskins able to develop a sales training process scalable to redefine the industry. Wow. Look at John coming in with some just heat seekers.
Oh, I mean, that's a pretty tall order, I think, to redefine an industry. I feel like I've got, I make an impact on our industry. I feel like I'm doing a pretty big thing, but redefine our industry, probably no. Just being honest.
Yeah.
If
Danskins
was a politician, he would say yes, but he's definitely.
I would say yes. I mean, I should have one of the banners out here with my picture on it, and I'd be like, you know what, that guy can do it.
But like, I can redefine the industry.
I can revolutionize the world. I'm capable of that. I think the man in the mirror can do it. No, I think really whether you're using, I've seen all this like lump sum stuff, like whatever your model is. Like I know you're doing a little tour with them and stuff.
No, that got canceled.
Oh, never mind.
It's not that I don't agree with the thing, but the tour got canceled.
Okay. So like there's the lump sum thing, whether there's a tour or not. There's Exactament. There's all 100 different ways to cut that. There's a ton of different ways to do this. But I think like what I found a lot of success with, and not that it's necessarily going to redefine the industry, but I think I work with like 250 different companies, and I get to see what stuff's working, what stuff's not. Like I get kind of,
that is cool.
Knee deep in a lot of these businesses. What works really well is just to be able to do a honest evaluation of the property. As a contractor, knowing some things about insurance, say these are probably covered, but I'm going to let the insurance carrier make that call. I'm going to provide them all the information that they need to. I'm going to write an estimate that is appropriate to my cost, whether that's Exactament or something else. And I am going to, here's the trick, I'm going to sign a contract with that customer for this scope, for this amount of money. And in my mind, and I haven't gone through the 2-day attorney course the Remington went through, but to me, that becomes an incurred cost where now, before we even file the claim, we say, here's my estimate, here's my contract, not contingency, here is my proof of loss, and you tell me different, insurance carrier.
All right, just to clarify, when you say proof of loss, you're saying here's all my evidence for the loss, or are you actually saying a contractor should fill out? Proof of loss is a specific form.
Yeah, proof of loss is a specific thing that the homeowner or property owner would have to fill out, not the contractor.
Gotcha. All right. So you're talking about here's all the evidence for the loss.
So the contractor is giving the customer an estimate, a contract. The customer is providing a proof of loss, sending all that in. Hey, here you go, insurance company. You tell me if this is not right.
Right.
And in my experience, that goes really, really well.
I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there isn't a contingency contract. That definitely helps tremendously because you've got a set price. You're not leaving things. The problem in our industry, the biggest problem, and I've said this on so many different platforms, and anytime I get interviewed, and I say our industry, I'm actually talking not necessarily about the entire industry, but roof-related claims especially, and sometimes water losses. You don't tend to see it in fire or total loss scenarios, but a contingency contract from a contractor that says we'll do the work for the amount the insurance company approves gives the power to the carrier to decide how much it is.
Yeah.
Now, there are policies that have language in it that gives the right to the carrier to determine the replacement cost value. They're out there. We've discovered a lot of those languages, and we present them in several of our courses for public adjusters and attorneys. If the language is there and it gives them the right to do that, there still is things in the policy available to you, remedies such as the appraisal provision that allow you to dispute that kind of a thing in most states that don't have shitty case law. So if you have those kind of scenarios, or if you're putting yourself in that scenario in every single claim by having a contingency contract, you're putting yourself in an uphill battle automatically. You're always going to be doing this supplement process, and you're driving the adjusters insane because you're never satisfied. It's never enough. Supplement for everything under the sun. Just do a reinspect. All the other diatribes, it'll never hurt you to file a claim because it's an act of God. Your rates can't go up. It doesn't matter. You can't say that kind of shit. There's always consequences to all this stuff. And there's so much bullshit taught, especially on Facebook groups that are mostly roofer related. That's just echo chamber garbage.
Do you know everyone on Facebook sells 10 million a year?
Oh, at least. And they win everything all day, son.
They get 100% of the claims.
All day. And I don't even remember where I was going with it.
Yeah.
I am angry. Remington was right. Desiree's late. You might be pregnant.
Oh, jeez. Really?
I don't know.
Carrier BS here. Carrier approved roof replacement and invoking right to repair option. The desk adjuster have not shared scope of work with PA or insured. Their contractor doesn't want to share scope either. Is this in Florida, I'm assuming?
No, it probably wouldn't have to be because the right to repair is in almost every policy. So it could be any state. If it's an optional managed repair program, we see a lot of that in Florida. And the right to repair is used a lot in Florida, but not necessarily Florida.
I was only aware of like a mandatory right to repair in Florida.
So the right to repair is in almost every insurance policy. It is in Florida. You called it because that's where you see it a lot going on right now. But most states don't do this kind of thing because there is an inherent liability issue for the carrier. Mm-hmm. And within 30 days of use of their decision of coverage, they will tell you their decision on whether or not they're going to make the repairs or if they're going to pay you for the repairs. If they're the ones that make the repairs, then themselves in-house, then they generally hire a contractor. And sometimes they want to say that it's not them hiring the contractor, it's you, which is bullshit because number 14 of the Unfair Settlement Practices Act requires them to have some processes in place to verify workmanship of any repairer owned by the insurer. So you want them to claim that they actually contracted with the insurer.
Hey,
and
so
a work authorization form is not the same thing.
Those 15 things you guys are
unfair claim settlement practices.
Mentioning,
yeah.
Where could someone find that information?
It depends on the state, on which ones they've adopted and what order. Like Florida has the policyholder bill of rights, which basically has that same information in it. It's just called something different. But if you just looked up unfair claim settlement practices on Google, you'd find those. It's written by the NAIC, and most of them are adopted by most of the states.
I think that's something maybe inside your bubble you don't realize. I think a lot of people aren't aware of.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I think people should look that up, do your research, learn.
Absolutely. And Danskin, so there is this big unfair claim settlement practice model. And each state has decided to adopt certain provisions of that model. So for instance, like Georgia has 14 of those provisions. South Carolina has, I think, 12. So they like pick and choose which ones they think are necessary for their particular state, and then they enact that as a statute. But yeah, no, if you're in the state and you're practicing,
you guys were working on a few months back in Georgia.
Part of it. So there's no private cause of action applied to those in most states, which means you can't sue if the carrier does those things. You can't sue for those things.
Yeah.
The Department of Insurance has the authority to determine if the carrier is performing those actions as a systemic practice, and then they have the ability to, trial and fine them and all those kinds of things. So, but a policyholder can't sue for those because the statute doesn't give an implied, doesn't imply that there is a private cause of action for those things. So one of the parts of the bill that we were honestly willing to give up if we got appraisal fixed, part of that bill was to provide a private cause of action for those items.
Certainly. Hey, if you have I'm coming down to NCI. I'm flying down from Atlanta at some point. And one of the things I want to talk on is that right to repair. And if your homeowner, your client has been subject to a right to repair, I have little tricks to get out of it. So I'm definitely going to do that. Or if it's an emergency, reach out to me and I can give you some tips.
Okay, so I'm going to call you after this because I'm actually working on a course that this has become somewhat of a part of, but the real question becomes whether or not a public adjuster is going to be able to take their fees out of a settlement type case where the contractor that referred them is no longer involved or something along those lines. So the PA fees are really the question for me.
It matters what your contract says. It matters what that PA contract says. You need to protect yourself. If it's a right to repair, you need to even have language in there. We have it in ours, in our legal contract, that it's the gross amount to repair or replace that property, regardless if it's a right to repair or not.
Right. So back to Luciana's post then, because this is the issue that happens more often than not. If the right to repair is used, or even the optional managed repair program where they get their own contractor involved as an option, either way, rarely does the policyholder ever get a chance to see how much is actually being paid out, even though it's their benefits that are being paid to the contractor and it's their property that's being repaired. Most of the time, they don't get to see the scope of work. They don't get to see the estimate. They don't get to see anything. The only thing they get is verbal, and they don't sign off on the checks. So I know that in the state of Georgia, part of House Bill 254 that was approved and went into effect in July of last year, it required that any checks coming from the insurance carrier have the policyholder's name on it. That would include any checks that the carrier is writing to a managed repair or a preferred vendor. It doesn't give them an exception. So unless the policy specifically gives an exception, then they're going to have issues. But I would bet something similar to that is in the Florida law, Luciana. And you absolutely have a right, since it is the policyholder's benefits that are being paid out to this carrier. It's their money. It's not the carrier's money anymore. It's their money. It's their benefits for their policy. They pay a premium for those benefits. They have a right to know what's there. But I know that they just don't show that very often, and fighting for that is very difficult. But imagine you're in a total loss scenario and there's an optional right to repair on a portion of it, and they exhaust all of coverage A. You need to know how much of coverage A is left after their preferred vendor is done with whatever portion that they used. You don't know how much money is left. How could you know if they never give you that information? In my opinion, if they don't share that with you, I feel like they're paying outside of coverage A and outside of the policy, and it should still have full coverage A benefits left behind. If they're not willing to share that with you, I think that's how it should be applied.
I'm with you, Matt, 100%. There's no way in this world I would let somebody step on my property without knowing the scope of work that they're about to perform. There's no way. Does that make sense? I mean, they're not even showing them the scope of what they're about to do. I mean, to me, that's illegal. I mean, you can't be doing that.
There's no way to calculate public adjuster fees if you don't know how much the RCV was.
Right.
Or the claim benefits. There's just no way. So are they doing that? Are they refusing to provide that information because there's a public adjuster involved? I can tell you, as far as I know, they don't give it to people that don't have a public adjuster either, but those people generally don't know to ask. I wonder sometimes if this is one of those things that carriers do when a public adjuster is involved, to say, fuck you, public adjuster, you're not going to get paid. That's the inner skeptic in me, but it's possible.
Absolutely. And they're saving money.
Yeah.
They're using their own contractor. They're saving money. But yeah, I agree with you. Hey, we all know, if you're in this industry, you know that there's going to be some adjusters, some desk adjusters that do not like public adjusters, that don't like contractors, that don't like plaintiffs' attorneys, and they will do things to harm them in a sense of not letting you get your fee. I mean, it is what it is. We all know that. Matt, we know that firsthand. From a voicemail. But just leaving it at that.
Can I use that voicemail, by the way? It wasn't protected by anything, was it?
We'll talk about that later, but yeah, for sure.
So how would a policyholder know if they're doing this, whether or not all the repairs were made, if the full scope was performed? And in a scenario where a policyholder or anybody just hires a contractor to perform something, you hold back money until you know all the work is performed, and then you pay. You don't have any control over the funds. So how do you know when all the work's performed?
How do you even know what's been performed if they're not allowing them to look at the scope? Again, do not let an insurance carrier write to repair and not provide the homeowner or commercial building owner with a scope. No way. Absolutely not.
I think I've convinced Luciana that it's because carriers don't want public adjusters to get paid. I may be very biased in the statements that I made. I want to say that I know a lot of IAs that are very, very good people that definitely don't have that sentiment, at least not towards me. Maybe they hate other public adjusters. I don't know. But it does have that feeling sometimes, and I'm just pointing that out. So total disclaimer conversation I'm having right now.
Well, IAs are completely different than a desk adjuster. So
that's true.
I like to share that as well.
That is very true. So it's been a full hour, and I feel like we started off with a title that made people think maybe we shouldn't. This is probably going to be a weird episode.
I was just getting fired up too, Matt.
Were you? It's getting hot in this
I think we should do a whole episode on right to repair.
I have a guest next Tuesday that should excite everybody. This is someone that was a part of writing the IICRC standards. And we're going to discuss identifying the category of water. That's a really big deal. So I'm really excited about next week, next Tuesday at 6 p.m. If you can join us live, so you can ask questions live, then we'll actually post your questions. You can ask that directly of the IICRC Council. And guess what? Since they actually wrote the standard, it might actually hold some weight on your claim. So you should totally be there, and you should tell everybody you know that deals with water loss claims to be on that show. Post their questions there. It's going to be a massive episode. And Remington, I really hope you're going to be able to make it on that one, because having an attorney on that will be vital.
No, I will.
Outstanding. All right. So that's next Tuesday at 6 p.m. This is Matt Danskin, and I get to spend the next few days with him because the Restoration Referral Workshop is being hosted by NCI. So he's here doing a bunch of stuff. So I'll probably post a few videos without him realizing it on Facebook, the back of his head where he's talking about stuff. I'll probably get all the best nuggets and post them online so you don't have to take his class.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that'll work. And hey, if you like my shirt or Remington's shirt, and you also like our channel and would like to help support it, we don't get paid for this, but you can go on our website, listentothisbull.com, and you can purchase a shirt. It might not be these exact ones, but there's all different kinds of designs on there, and there's new stuff being on there monthly. So if you don't like something that's on there, if you have an idea for a design that you'd like us to do, we'll take care of that for you.